is Uncle Ant.
Welcome to the Radius Show, where our motto is to learn, know, and grow. My name is Tabitha.
And my name is Chindi.
And we are doing a special collaboration with BST TLK podcast. And we'll be right back with you in a moment.
I'm here with...
Yo, what's up, man? Vernon Riley, man. General Manager of WCALP Radio.
My name is Chindi, and I do the Radius podcast.
I'm Tabitha, and I'm the founder and co-host of the Radius Show podcast.
Oh, man, I forgot to introduce myself, what I do out here. Yes, my name is Uncle Ant, and I do a podcast, BST TLK, but you probably find it on SoundCloud right now called the Black Guys Podcast. I have a sneaker brand called Beast Mode, founder of that, and right now chief engineer and other most things with the radio station. So how's everyone doing today?
Excellent, thank you for having us.
I'm happy. Great.
So what brings us here together today?
Well, this is a special cross collaboration between our two podcasts. The radio show began in July, and we are a show that's, in short, about expansion. Our motto is to learn, know, and grow, because we feel that if you change minds, you can change your behaviors and thus change the world.
All right. So we wanted to talk about a special topic today. It's going down in Libya.
Absolutely. I'm very glad that you invited us to talk about that, because we did have a show sort of upcoming that's going to be all about slavery in general. It just so happened to be in line the fact that information about Libya came to light courtesy of CNN, but we're going to talk about the actual institution of slavery that still goes on worldwide.
All right. So for people that don't know what's going on, can you put the light on that topic?
Well, sure, and I'm certain Chindi can jump in and expand on this also as far as the historical context, but very recently there were some CNN reports, some footage, some video, some pictures, and a special report they did, undercover investigation about actual slave auctions in the sense of almost the way historical slavery took place when, people of African descent were auctioned off in the Americas. A similar style slave auction was occurring in Libya, and they showed the individuals being held captive, some of them being held at gunpoint, some of them sort of being tied together, all too eerily similar to the transatlantic slave trade that took place before. The individuals were being sold for the equivalent of $400 American, and there was a lot of disturbing footage that came forth about that. Now, just to give our listeners some insight into this, slavery is something that is defined as the forced exploitation, the forced labor or exploitation of an individual. So it occurs in the sense of how we come to understand slavery as individuals, like I said, the transatlantic slave trade, but there's also still the bond labor or wage slavery labor that occurs where people are paid very little for very difficult work. There's also children being forced to work for very little money, and that's a form of slavery. And then there's also human trafficking and sex trafficking that occurs. That's also another form of slavery that occurs worldwide.
All right, that was a lot to digest it. What about you, man?
All right, it's very important to look at the history of Libya, the brief history before this happened. We had Qaddafi before, who had that under control. Qaddafi did get rid of his weapons of mass destruction in 2007. 4 years later, he was out of power. Under Obama, we have to say that. He was under President Obama, and he was killed. So literally, his country was in order, the country was okay, it was peaceful, and we didn't have this problem. And then now we have this problem. So historical context is very, very important here to understand where this is coming from. There's a lack of willingness from the current Libyan government to deal with this issue, which, as I said, Gaddafi was able to deal with very, very well.
And if I can jump in really quickly about that, Qaddafi was a very controversial figure on the continent, and while he was in power, which was a long reign, there was what we can consider, or kind of, for lack of a better term, stability, and from what we understand, this was not occurring. So this is something that's the post-Qaddafi Libya, is what is the major comparison that you hear in discussions. And secondly, around the time that Obama was leaving office last year, he himself said he deeply regretted what transpired in Libya because he did not anticipate it to sort of fall into chaos in a similar fashion. If we remember the Iraq War, we were going to be greeted as liberators statement from the previous President Bush, and following, that whole war and everything, there was long-standing insurgency and things of that nature in the absence of Saddam. So if you want to make an equivalent sort of comparison, that would be what you could sort of draw comparisons to.
Definitely. So who should the blame be put on? The government, or did the people who are actually, doing that? And in researching, reading everything, it was more or less like, I'm looking at what they're doing, selling these people like, your life is only worth, $400 US, which is insane. Like, kind of makes my skin crawl in a sense. And it's like, okay, you could put that blame on them doing that, but who's the blame for everything started? Would it be us as United States for helping take down a regime that it seemed like they were helping these people because none of this was going on when Gaddafi was alive, or the blame is just strictly on those selling?
What I would say is being very controversial. I would say the blame is on us, the individuals, because we participate sort of blindly in things that contribute to other people's suffering. Right now, every single person you can pass on the street, if you were to go outside and just walk by everyone, they have cell phones. Cell phones contain coltan. Coltan is mined in the Congo, and it's not mined in the way you go to work and clock in and get a check. It's not mined in that scenario. It's actually children and people who are being forced, almost in a similar way of blood diamonds, when people were being forced to excavate things that were not going to contribute to their community, and they were going to be exported overseas, and the markup on these items are incredible. These cell phones don't cost much to make, but they're selling them for thousands of dollars for the basic model, for the latest phone that came out that shall not be named. But all that aside, we contribute to this. We are consuming these things with no regard to the source of where they come from and things of that nature, and it kind of lets these situations go on with impunity. So Libya is an example of something that's going on every day in almost every continent.
That's crazy. I mean, how can I put this? Like, if slavery was at least trading slaves like that in Libya for the longest, and Iraq is basically, the United States usually does. We gotta show who the real killers are. We gotta go, mess stuff up in countries, and don't put a replacement regime in there. And now you look at the aftermath of it, and people say, okay, it's like I don't care. It's like, do we care? We messed it up.
Excellent question. And my issue here is I blame our government, the United States government and the other Western countries, United Kingdom, France, and so on and so forth, because those countries bombed that place, removed Gaddafi, and then after removing Gaddafi, then we got into a situation that we have right now. They have not fixed the problem. And you know why they're not doing it? Because these are black people. They don't care about black people, really. If these were white people who were being traded on the market, we would have seen action right now.
What I would jump in also is that, to your point, people don't realize why slavery ended. Slavery ended because it was going on throughout the world. It was a worldwide trade, right, of primarily black and brown people. And it ended because the individuals who were participating in the slave trade started actually capturing Europeans and started trading them in like the North Africa, Levant region. And once, basically they even took it as high as the Pope saying, can you put an end to this? So that's why the institution of slavery became outlawed. And we continued here, this is for a historical fact, you can look into this. It only stopped because they started capturing Europeans and they started being sort of wrapped up. And the reason why is because, okay, we have this open understanding, we can trade slaves, we can trade you guys too. So that's why it all came to an end, and that's why it all came crashing down. To your point about I guess your question is more like the next steps. We don't pay attention to our own domestic policy. I mean, how many people can explain what just transpired last night with the tax reform bill? In simple language, very few of us. So we don't understand foreign policy, and we can't hold them accountable for foreign policy if we can't articulate what's going on and how these decisions are made. And when you take a leader if you're taking somebody out of leadership worldwide, what's the next step so things like this don't happen? Because the implications are obviously terrible. Everyone's heart is broken about what they saw.
Well, that's true. I mean, but the thing is, do we care? You know what I mean? Obviously, you know, like you just said, the black people being sold. So obviously, you know, those in charge who are white, they're not gonna care. But what about us as, you know, black people? Do we care? Do we care enough to go out and fight and do as much as we can for them? You know, and I bring it back to the stuff that we do, you know, fight for, and that I've seen us, you know, fight for. That it's not like this here, like, engulfs all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, we're fighting for, like, Colin Kaepernick, and I love what he did, standing up for black people. Mm-hmm. But he's over there. He's working and he's doing his thing. You know, the Black Lives Matter movement, for stuff that's going on here. I love that as well. Mm-hmm. But are we saying with that Black Lives Matter, only American Black Lives Matter, or all Black lives? You know what I mean?
Don't get me started on the Black Lives.
Well, there was a rally in New York City at the Libyan embassy. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend because, again, back to the fact that we're just citizens and we all work. We are part of this whole, you know, global economic system. We have to show up to work and things. I couldn't be there because I kind of found out the last minute. So people did organize around this. Paris had a huge rally concerning this, but I guess it's a matter of, to your point, what level of political engagement people have. Are they engaged? Well, what level of political engagement are they taking place? And how do we bring other people along with us? You know, people in our neighborhoods. Do you know what's going on in Libya? What is their level of understanding what's going on in Libya? And the people who are academics, what's your understanding and what's your thoughts about what can happen in Libya? The people who are like the militant wing of our communities, what are your thoughts about Libya and things of that nature? Everyone has to sort of be on the same page, and we tend to be on the same page about a lot of things when something really bad happens, i.e. the birth of Black Lives Matter, like you stated, came out of it wasn't even a police officer, it was a gentleman who was like a neighborhood watch guy shooting Trayvon Martin was really like the genesis of a lot of that. So it depends. It's really like a sustained movement that could be necessary, but also a sustained understanding of how to interpret what's going on in the world, domestically and foreign.
Yeah, the whole Black Lives Matter thing to me, why it had to take someone, you know, that's brown to die in another hands. Yeah, I come from inner city. I come from a messed up neighborhood from Brooklyn or East New York. Nothing but death, poverty, no growth. People die on that block every day. Mm-hmm. Every day. First time I seen a kid get killed over nothing. No cry. You put a memorial over in front of the chicken spot. That's it. No news outbreak. But we cry help when we act when someone else don't look like us. When no pigmentation kills us. Why we do cry help for that, but we not cry help when we kill each other?
Yeah, but at the end of the day,
I think people have been crying out in our communities about it, but I think there's a level of powerlessness when it's the proximity. Proximity is what makes you feel a little bit powerless because we have this, for lack of a better term, no snitching policy. So if you do something to me, we live in the same radius of neighborhoods, no pun intended, but we live in the same sort of neighborhood. If you do something to me and then I tell, you know who did it, you know who told, so it's like I can't, there's like repercussions for that, and that's long-standing, by the way our neighborhoods were set up. Yeah. I'm more so concerned with the fact that, yes, there was maybe gun violence like you pointed to. The gun violence still originates from those individuals probably didn't have jobs. Those individuals probably weren't I don't want to say not doing well in high school, but maybe not really engaged in their high schools or going to college or, even with basketball scholarships, like really engaged in anything productive. So thus, in that absence, in that vacuum of anything productive going on, it's going to descend into violence. And violence between black people and violence, what was the statistic I saw? Whites kill white people, mm-hmm. Asians kill Asian people, black people kill black people. It's a proximity thing. We live amongst each other. So, in different neighborhoods and things. And even in overseas, there's sectarian violence. You're from this ethnic group, you're from this religion. So the violence is persistent throughout the world, Unless we go and, go forth and, take guns away from people, there still will be like that fisticuffs that take place and people, back in the day, they used to break bottles and stab each other in bar fights. So, the violence is violence, so it's the level of violence that we are more concerned about.
It definitely is. And to go back to your point where you're saying, when, black people have been killing black people in these neighborhoods all the time. But the difference is when black person A kills black person B, and when they go to court, they're going to prison. The problem is when Officer John kills, Ramon, he ain't going to prison, and that's why it's Black Lives Matter. It's okay. Well, you're saying that in a sense of, for me, like if you and I are fighting over, whatever, and you killed me, like you go to jail because it's against the law. But if you roll up on me as a police officer and kill me, my life doesn't matter because you're a white cop and I'm a black male. But it goes further than just that as well. Like you see all these things with the Black Lives Matter. You see certain things as far as the young man who from Stanford, the young swimmer from Stanford, what he did to that young lady, and the judge says, hey, if I do that, if I put you in prison, your life is ruined. So I'm going to give you this. And then you can see from the father, okay, well, all this time for a little 5 minutes of action. See, that's why Black Lives Matter. Because like I said, black people won't get that. There's another story of a young man who was underage, drunk driving, in one instance ended up killing somebody and paralyzing one of his friends. And they call it, affluenza. Like you're so rich and you're entitled, so we can't put you in jail because you don't know any better. But what about, the little boy, the little black kid who's hungry, who goes out and sells dime bags or whatever to feed his family? Should he supposed to know better? That's why Black Lives Matter.
And secondly, with those situations where people were why there were rallies around the world, for example, Philando Castile, rest in peace, and things of that nature, rest in power. Those individuals were like working folks who got, sort of like erroneously or they were senselessly killed. No person losing their life is not senseless. It's all senseless. But I think the outrage becomes, then how could one day that could be me? And that's where the outrage comes from. It's very relatable. People have these relatable situations. So that's where the movements come from, because I guess the overall term that applies to everything we're talking about is the injustice of it all. To your point about Brock Turner, he really assaulted somebody. There's people who are different tone who did a similar assault and went to jail for years. So why was there no equality in the way no equity in the way they were treated? And this is the outrage. So the outrage is the injustices that are coming out of this. Just to get to that point.
Overall, though, is the situation is that the system is set up in such a way that we, as a black community, are not viewed as being high up as a priority. That's why these things happen. Even the slavery issue we're talking about in Libya is happening because it's happening to black people. And the moment a white person gets in trouble, Philando Castile is a very good example. Philando Castile, nobody cared. I mean, this is a guy who was an NRA member. The NRA didn't say anything. This was a guy who had worked hard. The one that conservatives talked about, and nobody said anything about it. And, I was asking myself, I was saying, why are they not saying anything about the Philando Castile? They began saying something when that lady from Australia, the white lady, got shot by a policeman. So that's what happened. So
sorry about that. This is a test live broadcast, so we get the kinks working out.
All right, sorry about that. But basically, that's what happened. And so my personal view is that people have to understand, people have to be educated that black lives that's all right. I can keep going. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So basically, that black lives do matter, really, and that black lives are just as important as everybody's life. So people cared about that when that Australian lady died. Then everybody now cared about the shootings by the police men and police, women in some situations in the country, and that's unfortunate. And so that's how I see it. It's just that our lives are kind of devalued as black people, and that's how I see it personally.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, it's about caring, but when do we start to care about ourselves? You know what I mean? When do we start to care about ourselves? You know what I mean? Enough to say, all we got to take care of ourselves. If you look at everything like that's going on, it just seems like it's so small to everybody. Like nobody's really talking about it. You see Facebook and everybody just so sad. Everybody posts the same pictures, sharing this, that, and the third. But speak out. Speak out on certain issues. It seems like we only speak out on issues that really don't really make sense.
The social media thing is fake outrage.
I think so.
Social media activism.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
I
think
believe
it's
that.
I think it's fair. I think it's what, that's wrong. Let me retweet that. Now I'm Martin Luther King. You know what I mean? It's just
That's the hottest. That's the hot thing right now. So
It actually ties into each other because it's similar, the same instant gratification that we want from buying things that contribute to people's getting hurt. We're going to do an episode called How Many Slaves Work for You? Because we all have things in our house that are contributing to slavery, and I actually took the quiz and they said I literally had 64 slaves that worked for me. Now, if I went more in depth with it, I probably would have had hundreds, because the things that we buy for our convenience that make them cheap and accessible to them are at the cost of somebody being exploited. Similarly, with the fact that all we do is retweet or repost or share things, it's just that instant gratification and is not sustained, to your point, to the point that we can make an actual impact on the situation. You know, every day there's a new outrage, and thus we're not sustaining any sort of outrage, and thus we're not going to be able to impact these situations, really.
yeah. I mean, the main thing is how do you get people to care? Like literally, like, you know, like we said, cell phones. Like buying a cell phone, owning a cell phone is contributing to what's going on in Libya and the Congo and all that other stuff. But how do you get people to care? Because do I care about what's going on over there? Do I care about having the newest, you know, iPhone or what have you? So that's what it's all about. It's people caring.
Political literacy. I think you got to make it easy for people, and you have to break down. There's too few of us that know who our representatives are. There are too few of us who know how many opportunities we have to vote. There's too few of us who know that we actually, if they hear from us, they'll take action on what they hear. And so if enough of us feel the same way, if there's a group of us online talking about the same issue, Libya, XYZ, then if those same group really collaborated on something and went to their representative and thus said, take this to Washington, we actually could get some action on it. And people interest groups do this all the time. So that was just my thoughts.
all right. So the touch back on your slave thing. I wear a lot of Nikes, so I know I got a bunch of slave work for me. So and the get people to care part, it got to touch home. Nobody cares until it touch home. Until your child is taken as slave or child labor or some type of sex underground, nobody cares. No one cares until it happens to you. Plain and simple. It takes no type of law. Oh, we should care about Libya. It's cool we do the thing on Libya, but people in Libya can't see the post. They get too busy being slowed down in slavery.
That's right.
So how they gonna say, oh, they're praying about me, huh? Like I said, people only care until it happens to them, to a family member. Then we'll go up in arms and say, oh, this is what needs to change.
That makes it real.
Yeah, but what's going to stop it from coming here? They're, like I said, the Black Lives Matter movement, like police are already killing black people. You can see on videos with their hands up, still getting shot. But what's stopping that? What's stopping the slave trade from coming here?
You want physically, you're all mental slaves at the end of the day. But for the whole being traded for something, what's stopping it? I mean, pretty much will be the government. Like I said, black people are only 12% of the population. The majority of the United States is white people. So we want to trade more white people than the black people. So that's what's going to stop it.
Yeah, but look who's in power though. Who's powerful? Who's in the power?
White people.
All right, and they go and like we just said before. Once it starts affecting white people, then they'll stop. But I don't think if you know, God forbid it comes over here, I don't see the white people being traded.
It's not even I think it's more of an economic issue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The people who contribute to this or can facilitate there being farms with people working for very little money, there being factories are in the billionaire group. You know, so it's that group that really dictates policies, and they kind of do control how things come about and things of that nature. So if they see enough of an outrage, but to your point, getting to that level of outrage, that's the tipping point for them to care about, I think is your overall point, which is a good point. I think when it was new, there was a sustainable outrage and it was kind of a worldwide backlash, but I don't know how sustained it is today. This is probably, 2 weeks old now? So I don't know how sustained that outrage is for people.
My personal view is that even here in America, we have to be careful. This idea that, there's no slavery in the United States, or we have a little bit. I mean, there's a prison complex that we have here, which is huge, and it makes a huge amount of profit. And these people, who are prisoners, are working for basically almost nothing. I mean, and most of the people in prison are minorities, let's face it. And so they're the ones who are doing the work for almost nothing, and we are benefiting from that. I mean, the furniture that was being made, I don't know whether that's a situation right now. I have to do some research. But when I graduated way back from SUNY Albany in 2004, that was the situation. The furniture there was being made by the prison complex. We got the furniture and all the materials from the prison complex. And we didn't really care. We weren't outraged. I remember trying to get people to care about it. I was working, and it just didn't work. And these are it's like, brothers, come on, sisters, let's get together and resist the system. And no, they didn't want to do it.
Well, can I contribute to this conversation? I think there's a fallacy that there has to be millions of people saying something, when in actuality, if you look at history, movements were always started by small groups of people. Okay, so there's 5 of us in this room right now. The people who planned the Montgomery bus boycotts were no more than 6 or 7. And they more or less toppled that entire industry to the point that they desegregated the South single-handedly with that one move, that one strategy. So I don't really want people to walk away thinking that, A, you have to have millions of people. You just have to be effective, and I think you can become effective if you educate yourself on these issues.
We are effective. That's what we got the radio station right here.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. You know what I mean? And remain powerful. Like I said, I was speaking to some young brothers from around the area a few days ago, and one of the young brothers made a good point. They said, the Libya, what's going on in Libya is very, very, very unfortunate. And the one thing they do to that brought it all together was they kind of broke, because they're groups. They broke the groups down, and he goes, the best way to conquer a people is to divide them.
Of course.
And that's what makes them less powerful. And he goes, the same thing is going on in America now. Mm-hmm. And he said, and the biggest thing that's dividing us and conquering us right now is welfare. And I took a step back and I said, yeah, that's true, because if you look at right now, I'm old school, so I like the shows like Good Times, where you saw they were in the projects, but you saw a very, very strong father, a very loving, caring mother, and their values together were instilled in their children. But now you don't see that, because, like I said, and I do agree with him, because welfare is, if I give you money as a woman who has 5 kids, why do you need a black male in the home? But it also allows it makes it easier to divide, families and stuff like that, and makes it easier to infiltrate. You know what I mean? Even with groups as like the Black Panthers, they were infiltrated, they were divided, and they were conquered. That's like I said, divide and conquer is how it is. Even back to old slave days, when these Africans came over here, yes, they were beaten and all that other stuff, but they were done that way to break their mentality, because the male, in a sense, should be the head of the household. But if you break down the head of the household, your household falls. That's the best way to kill a snake. Like I said, cut the head off. You know what I mean?
The head usually go back in. You cut the head off a snake, the head goes back in.
But something's gonna go there. And like I said, whatever's the most powerful at the time, which is your government, which is money, it's like blinders. I believe we have to take the blinders off and be able to look around, what's on the side of us, what's behind us, what's in front of us, you know what I mean? I think we only see, with blinders on, I think we only see what they're showing us, you know what I mean? Like kind of almost like a virtual reality type thing. Like this is what you can be. And while you're being this, they're way up here being something else, putting stuff in that to break you, make you dependent. In the sense we're kind of dependent on the government, too dependent on the government.
Well, I think also the lesson here is that whatever awakens in you, this Libya situation is the outrage that awakens this. For some people, it was Trayvon Martin. That inspired 3 women to start the Black Lives Matter movement. Whatever that thing that awakens you is, go with that and continue researching and continue reading on things, and more or less study how to be effective rather than simply angry. Because the anger is what is sort of the spark, but what's really the sustained thing that makes it a flame, and that can even devour entire forests, is the effectiveness of you, and you can only be effective through education, I think. Educating yourself, self-education.
Absolutely. And just know, even these people in the Congo with all the valuable resources they have, the people are saying, listen, you don't have to kill us for it. We don't want it. Take it. If you want it, take it. There's no need for you to kill us. Okay. If you want to mine in my backyard, to get what you want, take it. I just want to raise my kids and my family and live peaceful, but people don't, and that's the thing, and that's what makes this such a travesty. You know, people are being sold, people are being killed, just for resources that honestly they really don't care about. You know what I mean?
Is that diamonds, oil?
Yeah, cobalt, all that stuff.
All that stuff, like I said. I know America killed for oil, killed for diamonds,
Still
killed for less.
Still to this day.
But they have to satisfy their class, the class in America, in their communities. They have to maintain a system of consumerism. And so that's what's happening. So when I have my new cell phone, I want to have, the S8 or whatever other types of cell phones. I think it's now we have the iPhone 10, I think we do. And, these extremely expensive. Somebody is losing out in that process. What about you have your own cell phone and try to keep it for many years? I mean, I have a friend of mine who is very environmental conscious. She has a cell phone for the last 6-7 years.
I'm glad you mentioned that. It's materialism. We tend to be a little materialistic, and as a demographic, and I'm talking about working class, working poor, poor whites, middle class whites, working class white people, working class, every other group, black people, everybody. We can't afford to be materialistic. We should be saving, we should be buying property, we should be doing things that would more or less make us wealthy, not just sort of, material, instead of us just accumulating all these things. Embrace a lifestyle of minimalism. Don't buy things just to be buying them. Have your seasonal clothes, just embrace things that if you're going to spend money that are investment and appreciate rather than depreciate. You join a group that's supporting your efforts to save your money, join a group that's, supporting, also that's another, not to segue away from that, the environment and all these freakishly big storms, freakish weather swings and things that our lack of a climate also goes right back to that consumerism, our desire to buy things and then ripping the resources out of the ground, destabilizing the environment. That impacts us too. It's a trickle-down effect, and it only impacts people on a certain end of the spectrum, and it's enriching people who are already substantially wealthy.
I feel you on that. Like, I'm looking to buy some property up here. If you know anybody, you can hook the brother up.
We definitely will put you in communication.
All right, thank you. I can't afford the iPhone 10.
Every time you want to buy some sneakers, put that money away. For your down payment.
It's hard though. It's really hard because I think for the most part, American society is also based upon perception. You know what I mean? And it's like if you shop at and I'm not saying nothing wrong with shopping at Walmart. I wear Walmart clothes myself. You know what I mean? But shopping at Walmart might not look as good as shopping at the Versace store. And
it's your personhood.
Yeah.
Your identity is attached to having a label, and you have to spend this money on this label, and it's basically made the same way, i.e. by slaves. They're both in either sweatshops. There's many designers who were exposed for having sweatshops. That's slavery, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, we're paying, and then they paid no money to make these clothes, and we're spending thousands on them.
That's absolutely true. You know what I mean? But like I said, it's that perception. People feel that money and spending a lot of money on certain items will put you in a certain level. Like I said, you go around the hood. You go around the hood right now, and you see the projects. There's Mercedes Benzes and Porsches parked outside the projects. Like, all right, so now you have this car, but you're living in the projects. So flip that. Take that same Mercedes, live in a house, and drive a Toyota.
You paying a mean car note, so.
You know what I mean? But it's like I said, it's all about that perception. Like with people, material things will put give you a certain, like, classes are based on material things. You know what I mean? And that's really sad. That's in every walk of life, from black, brown to white. Like, it's material. You know what I mean? Because they don't know how to grow.
I mean, I was like that growing up. Like, I used to get mad. My father wouldn't buy me a pair of Jordans and stuff like that. I remember I wanted a pair of Gary Paytons. Like, this Gary Payton was cooking on the Supersonics. I wanted a pair so bad. He would not buy me a pair. And, I used to think like that. Oh, I need to let the Flyers think. Because, what I see growing up, the Flyers do was getting everything. Getting ladies, get all the respect. Then, when I got older, I went to college. And when I started working for these fashion brands, I realized, I didn't wear none of this stuff. I told people it's hot wearing basketball shirts and the white tees. And I wore none of the clothes these kids wore, but I told you what was hot.
But like I said, that's what it is. And then when we talk about this Libya situation, is the people, like, as black people, we're saying it's a travesty, it's an outrage. We need to do something about it. But those in power, those that we are in power or allowing to be in power, aren't caring. You know, like we said, because they're black people and the white people are the ones that are in power, so they're not caring. So basically, we have to realize our strength and our power, put it together. Like you said, rather it's 3 or 300, we got to put it together and do something. You know, we can't, shout it out. Oh, we're mad. Do something about it, and then sit back and wait for them to make their own plan. Because, like I said, eventually there might be a plan if enough people are out or outraged. But in the meantime, these people are being sold into slavery. These people are being killed. They're being raped, the whole nine. So, like I said, we have to come up with like an action of power. Those who are in power, who have the money, the resources, the businesses, step up and let's do something. Let's make a action, a plan. Because you can read what Donald Trump is saying. Of course, he doesn't care. He might care eventually, if enough people say something. But of course, he's not going to care.
I mean, is there a plan? Like you mentioned that plan. I believe people just shout without a plan. What they say when you finally tell you, okay, let's talk.
Well, there's organizations worldwide that are working to. There's a lot of groups actually. I'll send you the links and I'll post it on theradiusshow.com. There's many not-for-profits and organizations that are working to raise awareness of slavery worldwide, not just Libyan slavery, but worldwide, and also have sustainable ideas about how to end it, and you can participate. And I think that's one start. If this particular slavery issue got you hot under the collar, definitely go read up about it. There's groups that you can contribute in whatever way, form, or shape, or fashion. And I think, again, inform yourself, because I think people are dumbfounded and sort of shocked and outraged because it was going on without any awareness. I don't know how few people know that their cell phone is contributing to child slavery, child labor. I don't know how few people know that when you buy makeup, there's little children in Mexico mining the stuff that goes into makeup. Very few people realize where these slaves are going. So I think it's that lack of awareness. If you were really outraged, yes, definitely share it on social media. And if somebody makes a comment, ask a question, point them in the direction of where they can get information. You personally may not be able to go, bring down this whole slavery in Libya thing, but you can definitely contribute to people understanding, people knowing, people raising their awareness. So that's one step you can take in that direction.
Yeah, it's also about caring too. I mean, as far as the cell phone and everything that goes into making these cell phones and this makeup and stuff like that, it's sad to say, but we're kind of looking at it as, we don't. It's not really a care. Nobody knows. How a cow dies to make a cheeseburger. All they know is the cheeseburger tastes good.
Absolutely.
What I mean?
Destroying the environment too, because
exactly.
Cows. Okay, let's get on our environmentalist hat. Meat is a luxury, and this has been throughout humanity. We were never eating burgers and meats every single day. Mass-produced meats come from corporations, millionaires who buy out large tracts of land in Argentina, in Brazil, displace people from their homes, buy out these places, raise millions of cows, destroy the environment, and thus now we have freakishly large storms and stuff. Brazil is called the lungs of the earth because of the rainforest. They are cleaning the air that we're breathing. We are destroying Brazil, so what is going to happen to our air quality? To your point, burgers, you don't want to know what goes into mass producing meat. Watch some documentaries.
I've seen the videos.
Watch documentaries. There's documentaries about the slavery stuff. There's documentaries about the meat industry and how the trickle down domino effect on other things. You can inform yourself, and that's empowering yourself.
Yeah, I've seen some of those documentaries about the whole meat industry. And you know what, son? I still want to eat meat.
That's fine, but you know what? Buy it from an ethical source. Buy it from someplace else. If you know that when you buy it from XYZ Corporation and they're doing it a certain way, there's black farmers you can buy from. There's a black farm, soul fire farm you can get your meat from. They kill the chickens and they'll give it to you. And that's, yeah, absolutely. And they're farm raised, organic, and everything else. Shout out to Amani and shout out to Soul Fire Farm.
Okay, give me next plug.
But you can get ethically sourced, organic, non-contaminated food. Go about it, do that extra step, do the research. It takes a moment, and we have cell phones, we have Google. You can get that information. I'm not saying stop eating meat, even though I don't eat meat, but you can go about it the right way.
And also, I think we have to be in relation to that. We have to be personally responsible for our actions. There's somebody who's saying that if we were all in the Nazi regime, we'd all be Nazis. And he had a point. He was a professor. What he meant was that he was a friend. Name was Professor Jordan from Canada, and what he was saying was that we have this idea. We know what's going on, but we choose not to do something about it. We know what's happening. So if you make a conscious effort, like meat is reduce the amount you eat. If you eat half of what you eat, you've contributed to the environment. You've contributed a lot. You don't have to stop eating meat like I did or like Tabitha did, but you could just say, oh, you know what? I'll eat half of what I eat instead of the full amount of what I eat. I'll buy it from Sophia Farm instead of buying it from the actual supermarkets that use unethical, sometimes use a lot of unethical means of producing this meat. And also think about it as it's going to benefit you in the long run. If you're going to have a much better environment in the long run for your kids and for your children, because as you said, I think it's said that we don't care about it until your child is the one who's a slave. And if you continue doing that, that could happen. We're the black community. I'm sorry, we're at the bottom end of it. It's very easy if things get really rough for situations for us to get worse off than they are right now, and so we have to be very proactive.
You're gonna off us first.
Yes.
And that's the nature of exploitation, the people at the bottom. So as much as we complain here, you alluded to this, we complain about our plight. We have to have that same level of empathy for people who are going through quadruple that, without the level of free speech we have, without the level of, you can get a free lawyer. Some people are going through stuff worldwide, so we have to have that level of empathy too.
There's someone getting stoned right now, neck deep.
It's sad, it's about, like I said, it's about opening your eyes and really caring. Like I said before, man, we're living in a sense in this world of what's called, I believe, virtual reality, because like I said, people are just putting images in your head. Like I said, people putting images in your head, and they're just telling you this is good, this is what it is. Like even today with the NFL, I found they passed a ruling. The players signed off on, as well as the owners, to say, hey, if you guys don't protest, take these knees, we'll donate some money to whatever charity you want, and then we'll all be happy. We'll all be happy without knowing that why these people take these knees, why these players take knees. And I think the sad part about it is, again, to go back to tie it all together, is once it gets into the media, it gets turned into something that it's really not. Like people fail. I think people lost track of why Colin Kaepernick took a knee. He took a knee the same way we wear pink for breast cancer awareness. Pink is not going to cure breast cancer, but it's going to make you aware of what's going on. I think that's all Colin Kaepernick did. But now I think people take it too far. Like, I'm kneeling against Trump. We don't kneel against Trump. He's going to be who he is. He doesn't care. If he leaves the office today, he's still going to be a billionaire.
We have to control the narrative. Okay, we start these movements, but we can't let them define us. Right now, unfortunately, Black Lives Matter, for example, won like a World Peace Award, not necessarily the Nobel Peace Prize, but something like that. So internationally, they're recognized for doing good work, but then there's still this counter narrative that there's somehow like a hate group. At one protest, somebody said something terrible or whatever, and then since then they've always been maligned as this bad group. But that's nothing to do with the founders, has nothing to do with the movement. Those individuals, you can't cast a bad light on that entire organization because some people said some unfortunate things at a rally once. We have to control our own narratives about these situations. To your point, exactly. No one knows that, for one, there's a hashtag Vets for Kaepernick. People are saying, oh, he's disrespecting the flag. To my knowledge, A, you can't force someone to stand for the flag. B, that's all aside from that. And B, he never said I'm just sitting out the song. The flag and the song aren't synonymous. One came before the other. Number three, like you said, all the different topical reasons people are saying he's doing it. And he actually started kneeling at the request of a vet who wrote him and said, I'd rather you kneel. When we are paying respect to a fallen soldier, we kneel. When we're giving a flag to someone, we kneel. So this is actually a gesture that a vet suggested. So controlling the narrative is important, and not letting people, pervert what your original message is about is very important. Yeah,
he basically, in a sense, Colin Kaepernick lost his life. He can't, play football anymore, which is his life, because of, the script has kind of been changed. Like, once everything goes to the media kind of, it's almost like they make a story out of something that's not there. You know what I mean?
Wasn't that an owner who said that you can't have prisoners controlling literally he's looking at the NFL players as prisoners, and they can be controlling the narrative. They can be prisoners controlling the jail, sort of thing. I think there was an owner who
You
said
can't let
that.
the prisoners run the jail.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a Houston? Yeah, he was a Houston owner. Yeah, and he said that. And why did he? People were outraged, but not too outraged. They were just like, oh well, he's saying anything. And then Kaepernick loses his career. He's way better than most of these NFL players, and yet he's lost his career because of it. This is why I respect him a lot, because he's lost a lot of money because he said that, he stood for what is right, and he did stand for Black lives and the fact that Black lives do really matter.
They do, and I think he's the example of what that means. I think as a people, and as Black people, I feel as though we cannot allow, media or whomever change the narrative of what we do. Like, I would never take a knee against Donald Trump, because Donald Trump he's just president. He can make laws and make rules, but he's not the end all be all in a sense. I think that the end all be all in a sense is you working within the rules. Every rule has a loophole. We all know this. We all know this. But it's to the sense of, okay, now we're taking a knee because Donald Trump said you should be fired if you take a knee. Instead of everybody taking knees and saying, yeah, Trump, like last week, the running back from Marshawn Lynch, the running back from the Oakland Raiders, took a knee for the national anthem, but stood for the Mexican national anthem. And like I said, and then again, Trump comes back out, like, just leave it alone. You know what I'm saying? Leave that part alone, and know that we have bigger issues out here than going against a guy who's going to be and do what he's going to do anyway.
It's displaced outrage, because
exactly.
The outrage is not necessarily about the lives, about his issue, his original point he made. The outrage is with the fact that he's kneeling. So everything, to your point about even this Libya thing, we can't displace our outrage, and you have to turn it into something actionable, and whatever that may be.
Absolutely.
So, this is Uncle Ed. I'm here with Tabitha.
Thank you.
Shindy.
And Vernon.
And this was a live test of a podcast that we did on WCA 107.3 FM. And we are out.
Thank you.
Peace. Laters.
All right. Ooh. Thank you.
How y'all feel?